6.3, relating SI and imperial units. Okay, so SI, we haven't really talked much about the international system or the metric system, right? So why do we call it SI to begin with here? Well, it actually stands for International System, and well, it's backwards, isn't it? It's SI. Shouldn't it be IS? Well, the reason for that is because it's actually it comes from France, right? And you probably know this if you know any French, which I don't, but you probably know more than I do. Quite often, you just say things kind of in reverse a little bit, right? So this would be like System International. So that's as far as my French goes. Okay, so now what we're going to do is convert between SI units and imperial units. So we think about our different SI units or our metric system units. Those are going to be things like meters, kilometers, centimeters, millimeters, right? And we're going to stick to like kind of these basic these four for now. Okay, and maybe before we get going here too, let's do a little bit of review on the metric system too, and how we convert, let's say, from meters to kilometers, right? To tell you the truth, we're usually only going to have to convert meters to kilometers, and then maybe centimeters to meters or kilometers, and then the odd time millimeters into those things, right? There's actually a few like decimeters and decameters and hectometers. They're not used very often, to tell you the truth. Yeah, we usually go from meters, and then the next one up would be kilometers. And I just wanted to show you guys the pattern here too, that if we have our base unit, right? Sorry, that's not what I wanted that to do. But if we have our base unit, you can see that those are in meters, grams, liters, etc., right? So meters is the one that we're looking at right now. So we're really looking at this first column up here, up at the top, or the first row, I should say. Now, for one of these meters, right, the base unit of meters, can you see that if we were using centimeters, there are 100 centimeters in 1 meter. Okay, that makes sense, right? There's 100 centimeters on your meter stick, isn't there? Right, it goes up to 100, so that's centimeters. So that's going to be our conversion there, right? But this makes it really nice because if I have, let's say, 300 centimeters, well, that's just 3 meters, right? So you can just, yeah, I'll show you some examples of those in a minute. But the other one we can do here now is, let's say, if our base unit of meters, well, how many meters are in 1 kilometer? Well, there's 1,000, right? And those are ones you should memorize. They come up quite often, right? You should know that there are 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer, right? Okay, and then you should know that there are 100 centimeters in 1 meter, and that there are 1,000 millimeters in 1 meter, right? Those are the ones that come up quite a lot. Okay, so knowing that, let's go back here, and I'm just going to start off an example with just metric system to metric system. So let's say we had 36 centimeters, and I wanted to convert that into meters, right? Well, it's really easy to convert things in metric system because they're all base 10, right? You see that was like 100 in the one and 1,000 in the other. So all we have to do is say, okay, well, how many centimeters are in a meter? Well, there's 100, right? There's 100. There's 2 zeros in 100. So all we have to do is either, go this divided by 100, or quick and easy, you can move the decimal place 2 times to the left. That would be 0.36 meters. Okay, so quick and like nice and easy ones, right, to figure that out. All right, so now I'll give you another one. So let's say we had like 3,562 meters, and I want to figure out how many kilometers that is. Okay, well, how many meters are in a kilometer? There's 1,000, right? There's 1,000 meters in a kilometer. There's 3 zeros, so we need to move the decimal place 3 times, right? Really what we're doing is we're going to divide by 1,000, but that would be the same thing as taking this decimal place that is on the end and moving it 1, 2, 3 times, right? So that would be 3.562 kilometers, okay? So you guys will be expected to do that as well, move the decimal place back and forth to convert between metric system. But now what these ones are is converting imperial to SI, right? So there's different conversion factors that we'll need. You guys have these on your formula sheet as well, okay? So here, let's look at them. So on your formula sheet, now we're looking at the relationship between imperial and metric, right? So notice they actually give you different ones, right? We've got 1 mile is equal to this many kilometers, or 1 kilometer is equal to this many miles, right? It doesn't actually matter which one you use. It'll just depend on whether you're multiplying by the number or dividing by the number in the end, okay? But they give you both. All right. And yeah, here's what I was talking about too, going through, right? That there's these relationships between the metric units. So you don't have to memorize them, but you should know it. Right? You should memorize those. Okay, let's get into some. All right, so question number 1 says a Canadian football field is approximately 59 meters wide. What is the measurement to the nearest foot? Okay, well, we have, like, you know, just right here, like some of our conversion factors. I also want you to, you know, notice on your formula sheet where these are. Okay, so these are also here. So we've got meters and we've got feet right there, right? 1 meter is equal to that many feet. But we also have 1 foot is equal to this many meters or centimeters, right? They're similar, right? You see the same number, just decimals in a different place. So we can actually use either one of those. So I'll use 1 meter is equal to 3.281, sorry, feet. Okay, so we just write out 59 meters, and then I'm going to multiply that by some factor. I'm going to put meters in the bottom, and I'm going to put feet in the top. All right, so now I'm just going to go straight from meters to feet. So there are 3.281 feet in 1 meter. So the meters cancel, and we end up with 194 feet. There you go. This is question number 2. After meeting in Soyuz, BC, Dakota drove 114 kilometers north, and Winona drove 68 miles south. Who drove farther? All right, so if we're going to figure out who drove farther, what we got to do is we got to be speaking the same language, right? So we either need to change this into miles or this into kilometers. It doesn't actually matter, right? So let's change this one into miles. So I'm going to say, okay, we got 114 kilometers. I'm going to multiply it by, you know, some factor. I'm going to want to cancel kilometers, so kilometers will go in the bottom and miles will go in the top. So let's see what we got going on. So with your formula sheet, we can see that 1 mile is the same as 1.609 kilometers. So 1 mile is equal to 1.609 kilometers. Okay, so then those will cancel, and you see in the end, really what I'm doing is I'm just dividing, right? So that would be 70.85. I don't even really need that, do I? 70.9. Good enough. Miles. All right, so who drove further? Well, Dakota did, right? That's farther, right? 70.9 is greater than 68, and they're both in miles, so we can compare properly now, right? All right. Number 3. Nora knows that she is 5 feet 7 inches tall. What height in centimeters will she list on her driver's license application? All right, so 5 feet 7 inches, and I want to change that, right? So remember, this is not 5.7 feet, right? That's what quite often kids will do, make a mistake. We got to figure out, well, either in feet or inches, we got to convert this thing. And I'll tell you what, it's actually going to be quite easier if we change this thing just entirely into inches, because this will be an easy one to do, right? If I have 5 feet, I got to figure out how many inches that is. Okay, well, how many inches are in a foot? There's 12, right? There's 12 inches in a foot. So a lot of you guys can do this in your head. You're like, okay, well, I'm just going to go 5 times 12, right? So let's do it like our way, though, and make sure we're making sense of this. This would be 5 feet. And if I want to change it into inches, then that would be, so feet on the bottom, inches in the top, there's 12 inches in 1 foot. So those cancel. So if I do that, I get 60 inches, right? But now when it's written this way, it's 5 feet and 7 inches. That means like 5 feet plus 7 inches, right? When we say like and like that. So this is really 60 inches, right? That's what our 5 feet was, plus 7 inches. So this whole thing is 67 inches, right? That's how tall she is. So now we just want to figure out how many inches, or how many centimeters that 67 inches is. So we'll say 67 inches. We'll multiply it by some factor. I'm going to put inches in the bottom, and I'm going to put centimeters in the top. So now I just got to make sure that I get this right. So back to my formula sheet. There are 2.54 centimeters in 1 inch. So there are 2.54 centimeters in 1 inch. So those cancel, right? So we get, so 67 times 2.54, we get 170.18 centimeters. So that would really be 170 centimeters on her driver's license. All right, last one. The truck driver knows that his load is 15 feet wide. Regulations along his route state that any load over 4.3 meters wide must have a wide load markers and an escort with flashing lights. Does this vehicle need wide load markers? All right, so again, this is another just comparison, right? We got to compare 15 feet and 4.3 meters. All right, so we can change either one, all right? It doesn't actually matter. Let's change 15 feet into meters so we can compare it to 4.3. Okay, so 15 feet. I'm going to multiply that by, well, something with feet on the bottom so that they cancel, and meters on the top. Go back to our formula. So I need meters to feet, right? So there are 0.3048 meters. 0.30, what was it, 84? I forget already. Oh, I had these backwards. It was 48. Okay. Meters in 1 foot, so those cancel. And yeah, it'll just be 15 times that. So we get 4.572 meters. All right, so the question is, does the vehicle need wide load markers? So remember what this was. This is how wide the truck actually is, right? And it says anything over 4.3 needs wide load markers. So yes, it does, right? Because the length of his truck, or the width of his truck, is wider than the allowed limit. Okay.